Have you ever wondered why the woman who once hung on your every word now looks at you like a stranger? Why the same eyes that once sparkled with admiration now hold nothing but disappointment? Here's what nobody tells you. She never actually saw you at all. What she saw was a ghost, a phantom she created from her own psychological needs. And when that phantom failed to materialize into reality, you became the villain in a story you never agreed to star in. This isn't about blame. This isn't about hatred. This is about survival. Because until you understand what Carl Jung discovered about the female psyche, you'll keep walking into the same psychological trap over and over again. Jung spent decades studying the human mind. What he found about certain women will disturb you, but it might also set you free. Listen carefully. Every woman carries within her an invisible blueprint. Jung called it the Animus, the masculine archetype buried deep in her unconscious mind. Think of it as her internal masculine ideal, the perfect man she's been building in her psyche since childhood. Here's where it gets dangerous. When she meets you, she doesn't see who you actually are. She sees how closely you match that internal blueprint. If you fit the template, congratulations. You've been cast in her private movie. But you're not the star. You're just playing a character she wrote long before you existed. The moment you step out of character, the moment you reveal your authentic self, something dark happens. The spell breaks. And suddenly, you're not her hero anymore. You're her disappointment. This is why she can turn cold seemingly overnight, why her feelings can evaporate like morning mist. She wasn't loving you. She was loving the role you were playing. And when you stop performing, the love stopped too. Jung discovered something that will shake you to your core. Many women don't even realize they're doing this. They believe they're choosing you consciously. They think their feelings are authentic, but they're actually possessed by their own unconscious masculine fantasy. Jung called this psychological possession. It's like being hijacked by your own mind. When a woman's animus is undeveloped, it becomes a tyrant. It drives her to chase the excitement of dangerous men while rejecting the stability of good ones. It makes her argue without logic, dominate without wisdom, judge without mercy. She becomes a slave to her own inner masculine voice, and that voice is often cruel, immature, and completely disconnected from reality. You think you're dealing with her, but you're actually dealing with her shadow, the dark, undeveloped part of her psyche that she refuses to acknowledge. Here's the brutal truth about why you fall for this trap every single time. You've been programmed to seek validation from women, trained to believe that being chosen by her makes you valuable. You confuse her desire with her understanding. You mistake her projection for her perception. When she says, "You're different," your ego purrs. When she says, "You're special," you melt. But what she really means is, "You fit my fantasy better than the others." The moment you reveal your authentic self, your fears, your struggles, your humanity, the fantasy crumbles. And she doesn't blame her fantasy. She blames you. This is why you feel so confused when it ends. You gave her everything. You were honest, vulnerable, real, and somehow that's exactly what made her lose interest. It's not your fault. You just stopped being a convincing actor in her psychological drama. Jung offered only one escape from this psychological prison: individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole within yourself. Most men never begin this journey. They're too addicted to the drug of female approval. They'd rather live as someone else's fantasy than face the terror of standing alone. But individuation isn't comfortable. It's brutal. It requires you to excavate the buried parts of yourself, the weak, the broken, the rejected. It demands you stop pointing fingers at women and start looking in the mirror, because here's what Jung knew that most men never learn. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. You don't earn your worth through her validation. You earn it by standing in your own truth, regardless of who applauds. The individuated man cannot be seduced by projection. He sees through the psychological games because he's done the inner work. He's faced his own shadow, the dark aspects of his personality he's spent years denying. He's integrated his own anima, his inner feminine aspects, so he doesn't need a woman to carry them for him. He stands complete, whole, unshakable. But here's the price. Society will reject him. People will call him cold, distant, arrogant, because he no longer fits into their comfortable categories. He can't be manipulated, controlled, or bought. He's become dangerous to a world that profits from his unconsciousness. Women sense this transformation immediately, and it terrifies them. The very thing you think will make her love you, your availability, your predictability, your eagerness to please, becomes the reason she loses attraction. The feminine psyche isn't drawn to comfort. It's drawn to mystery, to challenge, to the man she cannot fully understand or control. When you make yourself completely known, completely available, completely manageable, you don't become more lovable. You become invisible. This is the paradox that destroys most men. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. But until you embrace that solitude, you'll never be truly free. Jung observed that modern men suffer from a spiritual disease, the refusal to carry their own soul. When you say, "She's my everything," you think you're being romantic, but you're actually confessing your psychological poverty. You're admitting that you've projected your own soul onto her, made her the carrier of your meaning, your purpose, your identity. But no woman can carry the weight of a man who refuses to carry himself. When she inevitably drops that burden, you feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her, because in that moment of collapse, you finally face the truth. The work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. When you complete the individuation process, something miraculous happens. You stop attracting women who want a character. You start attracting women who want the truth. The real woman, not the fantasy, doesn't demand that you perform. She doesn't try to rewrite your script. She stands before you, whole in herself, not as a goddess seeking worship, but as a human being walking her own path. She's done her own shadow work, faced her own animus, burned through her own illusions. That's why she doesn't need you to complete her. She doesn't need you to save her. She chooses you not from need, but from freedom. Jung left us not a map to follow, but a warning to heed. Every man who refuses to confront himself becomes a slave to the projections of others. But he also left us a challenge, to walk the path of individuation, to stop seeking wholeness in someone else's eyes. The man who chooses himself fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, cannot be controlled by fantasy. He becomes the author of his own reality. If this message resonates with you, if it touches something deep inside your soul, don't let it fade away. The time to wake up is now. The time to choose yourself is now. Because the alternative is to remain forever trapped in someone else's dream, wondering why you never feel real. The choice is yours. It always has been.